Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. My name is Matt Payne, and I'm going to be putting words to the race action on this qualifier, race number 1 of block 3 qualifiers, 2 out of 3 to qualify for our final race of the 4-race series, each race block of 4. Our women's race coming to you live here on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, and our race divided into 4 segments: 2 urban areas, 1 dunes area, and 1 big climb at the end to test our riders. 35 kilometers, 704 meters of elevation, going to test the athletes along what is an incredibly tough course. This will really test our riders. Along the way, we have 7 segments which will check the riders through. That will ensure that we know exactly who's in which group. They don't count for points. The only thing that matters is who is over that finishing line on Jebel Hafid first. Team prizes as well as individual prizes at stake overall. The Strong Girls squad with riders like Lisa Burrell, Faye Faber, and Lydia Adelin going to be up against La Colombia's Spartan Obstacles, and the CM team with Sarika Gluma up against Ingrid Calderon of Las Colombias. And don't forget, of course, Spartan Obstacles, Catherine Fura, second in the race last weekend. But Spartan Obstacles have the top rider as well from last week, and that is in the shape of Elizabeth Van Hoolen. Now, will that be the case this time round? Those riders, top 3 riders in each team to count. Strong Girls with 5 in their squad. The only one with a strength in depth man more than the 3. Now into category 2, the next step down in ability. Our top flight cat 1, then a gap, then category 2 riders. And each rider is more than capable of figuring in the top 10. The strong women's squad in category 2, Rebecca Dallymore in that mix with Julie Sanchez. Don't forget Team RT Cycle Zone ladies 1 with Angel Hadlock in there. Team Fitness 10, well, Luz Carmona could be giving Gavira, her teammate, a run for the money, and the Salam Bike Shop Team 1. Well, we are going to see if it's going to be Cordera, Herrera, or Garcia who's going to be taking away the team honours. But some very strong squads in category 2. Categories divided on level of ability. It's not just about your FTP, your functional threshold power, but it's also about your sprint, your past performances. Category 3, and this is where our riders come in, and that is Salam Bishop Team 2 and the Abu Dhabi ladies. The Abu Dhabi ladies, well, will it be Al Hassani or Trudy who are going to come out top in their team? Will we see Freitas Seguid, or will it be Munyo of the Salam Bike Shop Team 2 who can take top honours in that category 3? Don't forget, of course, in each of our categories, we have individual riders as well in the mix. And that is where we will see who can take away top spot on a tough course. Now, we said this is difficult. To give you an idea of exactly how difficult, that 704 meters would be a sufficient climbing in something of 70k. It comes in 35 kilometers, and a lot of that comes at the end of the course. A bumpy start to the ride, followed by the flat section between segments 2 and 3 into the dunes, a bumpy section through the dunes with some real steep climbs, dropping down into the town sectors, and then out on to the climb, the final climb, the initial part of the climb covered by sector number 7, and that is the Jebel Hafid. The Outer Hafid really is tough stuff. That's going to test the riders. Now, time ticking on as we move into the start line. Our riders should be lined up on that start line, and we have 15 seconds to go. The riders on the turbo trainers, which, because this is e-cycling, our riders will be able to move from the start gate. They don't need to worry about it, a bit like being in the track discipline. It automatically will fire our riders down the road when they head out, and away we go. Now, this is where it's key. We saw in our men's race that this is all about getting that start off the line. Really, really a fast kick out here. We've seen some big numbers here of 5, 6, 7 watts per kilo coming. And you can see the riders in Cat 1, that's the yellow jerseys, already starting to move up to the front with Van Heuling right in there. Van Heuling, remember, she was the rider who took the win last week in our prize money final in the last of those races. Quickly seeing Adeline up there as well, moving up. Remember, Adeline, another of our fast riders, 9th last week, a top 10 rider, but a different course now. Our Category 2 riders quickly onto the bridge with the Category 3 riders. And you can see at the moment, Julie Sanchez, for a Category 2 rider, is right in the mix. But they've got to be careful, because if you're with riders who are much better than you in theory, you quite easily get carried away. We've all done it. I must admit, I'm more guilty of that than probably most. You go, think you're doing amazing. You push right in with the leaders, and then it takes its toll later on. But you can see how much height gain on the MyWhoosh platform we gain straight away. We've already 32 meters of ascent from the word go. Now, as we watch Sanchez on your screen on the left-hand side, currently kicking out over 200 watts, 150, 160. It's going up here on the right-hand screen as our riders continue to move up that climb. But a lead bunch forming. And just like in road cycling or in track cycling, the draft is critical, much more so than any of the off-road disciplines, because if you can sit behind a rider, you need to find a group, jump in with a group and work together. That will mean that you are going to be able to push on and try and close that gap down. Now, Elodie Reynard at the moment from France, currently sitting in a 17th position. This is the group that is sat behind, top right-hand side of your screen. You can see on the map, these are riders going up, and Caldero at the moment having to push hard here to stay with that leading group. The leading group with Caldero and Quevedo as well. So Adeline in there. We're looking at Van Heuling from the States in the mix. But you can just see some really fast riding at the moment. 45 kilometers an hour being hit by that leading group. The chase is on behind. And you can just see a runner at the moment just trying to close that gap down as they move through with Sanchez right-hand screen, with Hadlock on the left-hand screen. The two groups separated on the road. Those gaps at the moment, it's only a matter of a few seconds, but it is critical for our riders that they push on to get in through those gaps as fast as possible. They don't want to let that gap go, and it's not insurmountable. It's 6 seconds, 5 seconds at the moment between Group 2 and Group 1. This is where they've got to work really hard to get that closed down. If they let the gap go, we saw it in the previous races. We've seen it week on week on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, that the gaps open and then they can't be closed down later. If you get that advantage, all of a sudden you're going to go very, very quickly. Really interesting to see that we're starting to see some of our Category 3 riders moving up with the Cat 2. Here we have the Cat 2 riders in with the Cat 1, already hitting the segment starts behind. This is how fast it is. The next group have them in their sights, and this is going to be really close here. Big numbers in the front group, smaller numbers in the group behind, but the group behind working hard. Sanchez in there, trying to close that gap down. Kukkonen doing the same as well, trying to push on to hit that leading group, which has got last week's winner, Van Heuling, right up in the mix, really trying to push hard. And I think when we get to the end of this segment, we are going to see our familiar names in there now. You can see the effort being made here. Kukkonen, Cordero in there, working really hard. Cordero in the group on the back of Group 1. Group 2 are closing just in with Van Heuling at the moment as they come around this left-hand turn. Remember, these segments give us a good indicator of the power that's being put down by the riders to try and close those gaps down. The first group will go through. They'll trigger the first set of times, but once our second group come through, those times are times for that segment alone, not the time across the line, but the time to complete that segment. And that is really critical when it comes to a sprint race. This, a scratch race, first past the post, is our race winner here on MyWhoosh. Specializes in making sure our races are so fair that they are covered by the verification process that dials deep into a rider's data, their past performances. We use AI as well to make sure that it covers everybody, and of course, sense checked by the team at MyWhoosh as well. Now, in we go to the end of segment one. Van Heuling showing she's feeling fresh today. Look at that. She goes through. She was kicking over 6 watts per kilo as she came through. Not sure she's going to have the fastest time. She hasn't. Now, Geraldo goes through. And at the moment, the Las Colombias rider has come through with the fastest time at the moment. That is going to be really interesting as we move on into the later stages now. Sanchez right up there, but Heuling after that initial kick over the line and not right in there. But look at the difference in heart rate and how hard as Geraldo is working. Power is how much you're putting out. Heart rate generally reflects how hard you're going. And we're in with Geraldo at the moment, who took that jersey. It's still at 173 beats per minute. Now, the older you get, generally, the lower your heart rate will be. The younger you are, generally, the higher your heart rate will be. But different physiologists, different people are able to work at different levels, and that really does show as you look down that right-hand number. Key numbers, though, time through the line, all very, very fast. Now, you can just see a gap opening up in front from the leaders as they came through that sprint. Now we see a push over the top, that classic counter-attack as you come in. We currently have Van Heuling and Adeline at the moment just trying to break clear. Adeline 9th in the race last week, and looks like she really does fancy her chances on the route today. She's pushing with the winner of the race last time around, and certainly looks to me like she is going to continue to try and squeeze with the leader Van Heuling, or with Spartan Obstacles rider Van Heuling. Adeline riding for the Strong Girls team, both category 1 riders, both up at the front. Sanchez leading the chase behind. That gap at the moment has opened. There is the distance around the turn. Group 2 on the right-hand side, now moving to the main screen, showing you that distance. So they are working as a group, and they have the advantage. They have strength in numbers. That is key when you are trying to ride fast on the flat. Hide, do a turn at the front, come off, get to the back, hide, go to the front, do the work, come back off again. And the experienced riders know all about that now. Calderon is a rider who we know who can be in the mix, not in the leading group, the front, not in Adeline or the duo at the front with Adeline and Heuling in there, but a rider who has taken victory on this course before. Now, she took that victory on the 3rd of December last. That's the last time she took the win. She knows that she can do this, and we're just in with Calderon at the moment. The rider who was absolutely flying at the start of December knows this course inside out and could be pushing when we come on to this course, moving in to the top of the climb. She's certainly a rider who can climb well, and that is going to be key when you come in to finish. Now, coming into this checkpoint, Adeline in front of Heuling as they go through, but it is early days. Adeline 6th on this course. Way back at the start of November. So another rider who knows that she can get up this climb super quick, and you can see how far in front they are. They've not others time, not even hitting the time. Now they'll come on. So it's Adeline leading, then Van Heuling in a second place going through that split. Now that group comes in and through, and it's got Caldero, Kokonen in there. Looks like Guillermo in there, Calderon as well. Julie Sanchez and Stefania Sanchez. Gonzalez Arrua in there, and Quevedo. Now, Karut Quevedo, another of the riders who regularly puts in fast performances. She was 2nd in November on this course. When we hit November to December, when we moved on that month, it does mean that she was not quite at the front, but she was sitting in 4th place when we came over the line on those confirmed results from December. However, last time out, Quevedo was 5th in the race last week. So Karut Quevedo, a very quick rider, sat in this group, saving energy, not putting out too much effort too soon. If you've watched the men's race, you'll remember what happened in that when we hit those climbs, when we were going up and over the steep sections early, and you'll know exactly what damage that did to the group. You can also see now what's happening here. We have two leaders who've gone early, Van Heuling and Adeline. So Elizabeth Van Heuling, along with Lydia Adeline, the two leading riders. They've got the gap. They have the distance at the moment on the rest of the riders. They're currently about 600 meters down the road in the virtual world of MyWhoosh here in Arabia, and you can just see the gaps are starting to open, and this is dangerous for the group behind. They will want to close down on our two leaders. This is a climb that is very, very tough stuff, and it does test all of our riders. In fact, when we were here at the end of December, it was very, very evident that you needed to be a world class when you were here and racing, and that was shown by the riders who were pushed back down that field. Adeline working her way up here, and in fact, the e-cycling world champion Los Adegeist was 5th place in the sprint, 0.757 of a second down in a final sprint in and over the line. So this could be a group coming in to the finish. We'll see if that's going to be the case. This time, at the moment, our two leaders already working well halfway up the first section. You can just see the profile increasing as we go up. It's a slight sawtooth as we go up over the dune, drop down in to the far side and keeping that pressure on key here. So Adeline leads over the top. Heuling goes over and past as they drop down. They're going to go past the Bedouin tent to the left-hand side, moving on the way up into the climb. So our two leaders at the moment clear with that gap of 25 seconds. This is not insurmountable, but it's going to be a big job for the riders behind to close down. Time will disappear on the mountain, though. When we hit Jebel Hafid, that time will seem like it is nothing, because if you blow on that climb, you can lose minutes and minutes. But these two looking very strong at the moment. So Adeline leading, being partnered here by Van Heuling. Two leaders, 28 seconds the gap at the moment. Big group of riders chasing behind that chasing group at the moment, numbering about 10, if not 12 riders. They start to make their way in. You can just see the chasers left-hand side of your screen really are working well at the moment out of the saddle and dropping back down. These roller coasters breaking the rhythm as you push on those pedals really hard to keep it smooth. As a turbo trainer bites in, these riders static at home. The wonders of modern technology, meaning every time you hit a rise, that turbo will clamp down. Our riders racing have to have their turbo trainer set at 50% or more so that it clamps down, and so that you have to work your way through those gears. You can't just sit and just hit one smooth power, because every time you hit a riser, that's braking it, slowing it, simulating that hill. Every time you go over the far side, my favorite bit, it lets go, and you can really pick up the pace on the turbo. It can fly down the other side. The key is to keep pushing all the way over the top. You can watch Sanchez, left-hand side of your screen, in the green, quickly up over the top, currently in 4th place, and that group is fracturing at the moment. You can see at the moment Calderon just dropping back off the pace at the bottom of the pack. Sanchez is closing in on the 3rd place rider, that is Galuma. But at the moment, the group starting to come back together once again. However, things are definitely not that easy at the minute. The group are reforming. Our leaders, though, now coming up. They are motoring today here on the course on MyWhoosh. Qualification number 1. Remember, these riders are going to be racing to qualify. They have to get 2 confirmed results to be invited into the final. That is race number 4 of the block of 4 races. So 2 out of the 3 to qualify. You can race all 3 and qualify and enjoy the bragging rights if you won all 3. Very, very tough stuff. Doesn't matter whether it's the men's or the women's racing. This is really, really tough here on MyWhoosh. We saw great riding by the UAE clan team, who put strength in death with the riders at the front. Strong rise by Mr. X100 and SS for the UAE clan team, up against Bruce Bird, up against all of the other riders who were fighting. Phil Graves, as always, in the mix. But the women's race, slightly different makeup. We had 5 riders by the time we hit the climb. At the moment, we have 2 riders clear at the front. 45 seconds is the gap, and through that segment you can see hardly anything to split the two. 5 watts difference, 0.2 of a watt per kilo between Van Heuling and Adeline on segment number 3 through those dunes, and that definitely shows that these riders are motoring over. That is a 2.5k segment that is not flat by any stretch of the imagination. Now the next group hit the line, and those times start to come through, and that shows you that Caldera, Gonzalez, Rui, Galuma, Sanchez, Cocona, and Calderon, Covedo, and Sanchez are absolutely flying. The chasing group, well over 8 strong at the moment, and you can just see hardly anything separating the times of the riders behind. But 2 riders clearly well in front at the moment, and Van Heuling clearly has this course in her sights, but she is up against Lydia Adeline. Adeline, who was 9th in the final last time round, looking to take away the honours. Don't forget, of course, the prizes when we come to our final. It's not just about the individual, it's about the team. And these teams have to rise strong together. It's not just about that individual rider being really good. You can't just bulk out your team with riders. They've got to all be class. It really is about making sure that you can all back each other up. We saw that teamwork earlier on today. Are we going to see that teamwork as we move on? Adeline behind has riders who could help, but will they just sit back and make sure that nobody chases too quickly? Teams that are not represented at the front in the category 1, the CM team and the team of Las Colombianas, have to push riders up there. At the moment, Strong Girls and the Spartan Obstacles are represented, but Las Colombianas and the CM team are not, and they will need to work to close this gap down. They won't want to give away too much time. Now Adeline pushes in through into the segment, really pushes hard. Van Heuling just dropping back a little bit. Will need to push to get into the slipstream, just like real life. Being behind a rider saves you effort. You get set number of watts. You've only got so much. Some riders can kick more than others, but it is key to make sure that you can keep on pushing. Now, we're just watching our riders. It takes a real rider to get round this because it is incredibly tough out there. Our riders all the way spread out from the dunes now into the centre of town. All of our riders' results will be up on the pages. You can go on to MyWhoosh.com. Make sure you then click on to race results. You can pick the race by date. Remember that the results are unofficial. They're subject to verification. Once they are all verified, then you will find that you can look at those and there will be the confirmed results, and they are then official. So unofficial and official. And it does change, as you would expect with any race in any discipline, whether that's track, road, mountain bike, cyclocross, cycle speedway. All the results subject to verification, dependent on what the riders have been up to on the way through. Remember, riders can have technical issues, and it could be that there was an issue with the humidity in the room. It could well be that the processing speed suddenly went onto the nitrox and was flying faster than a Ferrari down there through the dunes, or driving up the Jebel Hafid. It could well be that it's gone on a go slow. So those results are subject to verification, and the process really, really good at spotting things that are anomalous. Now, it could well be that it's just an annulment, in which case the riders will need to ride another ride. It could be that a rider gets disqualified, but 2 out of the 3 qualifying rounds have to be confirmed to move on to that final. At the moment, the 2 riders who are going to be going in feeling very strong indeed, Van Heuling and Adeline, at the moment, a class part 3.5 watts per kilo on the run through that segment number 4. And clearly, by the look of that, they are being very, very careful. They're taking it at a very, very good pace, but a very, very controlled pace. 152 beats for Van Heuling. Adeline 148. Now they've dropped substantially from earlier on. That is quite simply because they are now settling into that pace. I wanted to keep that gap. Now come the chasers behind, and out of this group, once again, it looks to me like the Las Colombianas have got the bit between the teeth. You can see the teammates in there. There are two Las Colombianas riders in there. There are two riders from the CM team. We've got our category 2 leaders in there as well, and that is definitely going to make a difference because currently the riders that came through there, Cordero in the mix, Cone in the mix, and Sanchez in the mix for the win in the category 2 riders, all pushing, but our leaders, well, they're absolutely on a mission today, coming up to the 12-kilometer marker. So when they come into that 12K marker, they're going to start working their way up into a climb over, I think, if I'm not wrong, it should be the climb up and over the bridge when we hit the 12K marker. And a quick reminder, we've already gone through sectors 1, sectors number 2, which was our June sector. We're now into sector number 3. Our riders currently on 12K, so working the way through. They will stay down in town. That doesn't mean it's flat, though, not by any stretch of the imagination, because there are lots of long drag sections, but there are also some really, really steep kicks as you climb up and over things like the bridges, the sections where the road goes up can really test your legs, but it's also about that undulation that really does make life difficult. But the really hard bits, well, our two leaders are going to find that now, because we go up onto our next bridge, our next elevated roadway. Van Heuling and Adeline hit this, and this is where we expect to see those power numbers go up, and they have gone up. Look at this, 5.4 for Van Heuling, 7.2 for Adeline. They're stamping the way up here, and they don't want to drop each other. Surely at this stage, they've well and truly opened the gap up here. They're wanting to get fast times through the segments. Quite understandable. It doesn't count in terms of the race result. What it does do, though, it shows you just how strong they are, and they are really pushing their gap now nearly a minute. But the chasing group has strength in depth, and that 1 minute mark could come down. But Van Heuling at the moment just playing the games here, I think, with Adeline. Adeline have pushed on. Van Heuling has gone over the top and continued to accelerate. Now, you've really got to wonder what's going through the minds of these two athletes at the front. Our two competitors are battling it out. They know that they're clear of the group behind. They have to work together to stay clear on your own. That's even more difficult than as two riders up against the chasing group of riders. However, it is going to be also a battle between Van Heuling and Adeline as to who is feeling the strongest, who's got the mindset to go and take the climb on and take that win when they're being chased behind, but they're also battling against each other. So our clock now continues to tick on. Our riders having a race for 23 minutes and 18 seconds at the moment as they come through the straight. So heading into 24 minutes at the moment. Just going over the top, just sub 200 watts at the moment. That heart rate going up as they went up over the top of the climb. And you can just see now starting to descend down. It does level before the final drop down and in this long elevated roadway. It does feel harder as you make your way round than on the lower streets, whether I'm suffering from vertigo over it or whether it's just because it just feels that little bit tough after you've gone up. It's 1.2 descent down to about 0% for these roads, so it drops, it levels. But when you've gone hard on that climb, it all really, really hurts. And when you're racing to try and stay clear, this is what it is really, really tough. Now, great racing in the men's race. We saw a really aggressive race. We saw riders working together in teams, but the two riders at the front are not teammates. Remember, we have Strong Girls rider Lydia Adeline. We have the rider from Spartan Obstacles in there, Elizabeth Van Heuling. They are the two leaders with just shy of 1 minute over the chasing group led by Sanchez, Gonzalez Arroyo, as well as Loma Conan, Cordera Caveda, all working to get that gap down. Now this chasing group is starting to descend once again. This is going to test the riders all the way to the finish. Remember, this a 35k race, and that will make sure that the riders know they've got a tough race under the legs, because this course, remember, our course is changing across all three of the qualification races. Are going to test the riders' abilities, because they have different finishes. This finishing up on the top of the climb, and that is definitely testing our riders' climbing legs as they come up that long drag in to the finish. So at the moment, as we went through segment one, taken by Sora Giraldo, segment number two, taken by Adeline, and followed by Van Heuling, the two riders who then have managed to stay clear. It was Van Heuling who took segment three honours going in, and through segment four was Van Heuling as well. As they came into segment five, Van Heuling, ensuring she stayed at the front as they came through those segments. And in segment six, you can see, well, it's going to be a battle between Van Heuling and Adeline behind, though. Those riders rotating through. Nobody is showing that they are going to close that gap down. And I think this is going to be really interesting once we come on to that final climb, because the two riders in front, they're showing that they're the fastest through the segments. They're showing that they're the fastest on the course. They've got the gap now that is sitting at the minute marker. But what they've got to do is that they've got to hold that lead and take the win when they get back. And that is easier said than done. And that is why this course is so great to race and to ride on MyWhoosh, because it's about that whole mix of terrains, whether it is in downtown Abu Dhabi, whether you're in Dubai, whether you're going up through the dunes, whether you're going up onto the mountains. It really does check all the boxes in terms of testing the riders. And just looking at Calderon at the moment, just dropped off the back on the right hand side of your screen. You can see that that chasing group have not eased up on the pressure. They are still working really, really hard to try and stay with our two leaders. They are still giving away time. The gap now going over 1 minute. We'd see neutral service in there, apart from the need to be all over the world with our riders coming from across the globe. But here on MyWhoosh, on the Sunday Race Club with me, Matt Payne, bringing you all of the action. Our two leaders here in the women's race about to make their way onto the bridge. The gap currently sitting just over that 1 minute mark. The distance between the two groups, about 600 or so meters on the roads of MyWhoosh. And our leaders on to the climb. And Adeline now and Van Heuling have both picked that pace up. Van Heuling in the lead. Adeline with the red-haired green socks. Van Heuling, white helmet on, leading out of the saddle, just going up on to the climb. And that's what distinguishes these two riders. Your MyWhoosh avatar, the rider that you see on the screen, they are personalized to our riders, and you can see that behind the difference in the bikes, in the socks, in the wheels. And it's about making sure not just that you can ride the ride, that you know the course inside out, but also picking the right bike for where you want that advantage. Do you go for a balanced all-round bike? This is a course that has 35k in total, but the climb, well, that runs from 27.9 right the way to 35. So that is a total of 7.1k of climb at the end. Do you go for an all-round bike where you can go fast all the way through, except on the climb where you're in a little bit of a penalty? So, for example, Cardera's bike here has deep rims on it. You can see the bikes going past, so have shallow rims. They are easier to climb. They will go up the hills easier, but they won't cut through the air as fast. So there's more aerodynamic drag, and it's getting that balance right. It's picking the right bike to get the right mix. All of them, of course, Cornagos on here, who are, of course, sponsors of the UAE team. Great racing today in both the men's and the women's tour of Flanders. Make sure you give it a watch. cracking action. Not going to give you any spoilers about who takes the win in either race, but amazing to watch. And some great racing here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, and clearly some inspired riders. Now, as we go up on to the top, Van Heuling and Adeline continue to push. Interestingly, both riders have gone for relatively light wheels, but different bikes here. Now, the advantage really is on the climb with Van Heuling, slightly lighter bike, less aerodynamic, so there's slightly narrower tubes. However, the bike that is being ridden by Adeline, the MyWhoosh, the gold and black bike, deeper aero tubes, that will have an advantage on the downhill, so you'll need less watts to power it along. And in terms of watts, what's that difference? Well, at speeds of 40 kilometers an hour that riders are doing at the moment, if you are to push a deep rimmed front wheel through the air, that deep rimmed wheel, well, it's going to take something in the region of about 30 watts to push it through, compared to 40 watts for a shallow rimmed wheel. That is a huge difference. Those 10 watts could make a big difference. It's slightly less on the back. That's because the air is slightly dirtier at the back, but getting the aerodynamics right is key. However, carrying those extra grams when you go up the hill, that could make a difference. So Van Heuling and Adeline leading out at the moment on the front of the ride here on MyWhoosh, the chasing group on the right-hand side of your screen, making the way down on that 2% descent. Currently, that group still working well. A mix of Category 1 riders in the gold jerseys, Category 2 riders in the green jerseys, just in with Cordero on this descent. And you can just see trying to get that heart rate down, just watching it fall. We just moved across and through these riders, and they're just going to try and bring that heart rate down on the descent. Unless somebody's pushing you, want to try and give yourself some sliding room. If you know that you can only go up to what is known as your functional threshold, that's the time, that's the power that you can do over time, so generally across 1 hour. That functional threshold power, let's say that's going to be 200 watts. You don't go over that a certain amount of times. Well, if you do that, once you go above that, you need recovery time on the way back down. Now, if somebody pushes on the pedals hard, you want to go with them, you might go over that. You might push on for a segment to go get the fastest segment time for the finish line, but you've got to recover. You've got to get your heart rate down. And now the more you can get that heart rate down, the more sliding room you have, because that heart rate will go up. Most people know that they can ride at a set heart rate. I can yo-yo up and down. Not great at holding a steady pace. Anybody who's been behind me on a long climb will know they have to wait, usually at the top for me, ideally with ice cream and a coffee. However, when you are on a sprinty section where we can just put the power down really quick and then do some recovery, now that's more my kind of terrain. So we can kick, come back. And those different physiologies mean these riders have to work out what bike, when to go, how much they need to expend early, and where they want to be. How much do they want to dig in? We saw amazing performances in our earlier race today in the men's race. Make sure you watch on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. You can pick up all of that action. An incredible race, and really interesting to watch those tactics play out in there. And I have to say, the team resort is going to be very interesting indeed. Make sure you go to the MyWhoosh.com website and then click onto race results for all of those results. Remember, they will be confirmed and official as we move through, as the verification process is applied to it and then is confirmed now. Group number 2 chasing group number 1, the right-hand group at the moment. Still a distance. That gap, though, it's not increasing massively. It is getting bigger. Yes, 1 minute, 15 seconds now, but it is not huge. It's definitely not massive. Will it be enough for our leaders to hold on to the finish, or will they accelerate away? In which case, that is going to be a phenomenal performance from them. They will be taking first and second over the line if they can hold on and stay clear, but all too often on mountaintop finishes, we see the early leaders go. Have they gone for the TV time on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel? Has the second group played their cards just right, not expended too much energy? They've maintained that gap, but at a reasonable one, currently sitting at 1 minute and 19 seconds. We know that there are some faster climbers. Colombia traditionally producing very fast climbing athletes. The question is, will they be able to do the same here in MyWhoosh up the Jebel Hafit, the Hafit climb up onto the empty mountain, one of the best roads to ride or drive on. And gotta say, a real tough test of our riders. Now, you can see on your right hand side of the screen, this is going to be, I think, a group number 3 on the road. So it looks like that's going to be group number 3. Just going to take a double check of the names on the way through. So I think it is going to be group 3 just ticking the way in and along. So separated between these two is our second group. And it looks like Geraldo in the mix here. Catherine Fuhr. Tough day for her at the officer rider who took second place in our last race of the block of 4 preceding this. In our final, she took a second place to Van Heuling. She took third place on the climb of the Jebel Hafit, the Outer Hafit. Last time we went up there back at the end of December, so clearly not often. We've got to remember that athletes, though, have different periods in their racing when they can go fast and when they can't now. Who's going to be able to make this count? You can see the left hand, the leader, Adeline, up onto the climb with Van Heuling sitting just in front. The chasing group can see the road in front. That's the hill that the riders, the leaders, are on the climb in front of them, up on to the top of the rise there. At the moment, Van Heuling again accelerating up here. She's really stretching her legs out. Adeline, a more conservative approach to this, maybe not burning too many matches as they come up and over the climb, figuring that she can bring that gap back down. It's currently sitting, well, the clock say it's 7 seconds, and that is a big gap to put in. There's definitely a gap between them. You can see that on your screens. Right in front, that diminutive figure of Van Heuling being chased here by Lydia Adeline. Now, if this is a kick for the finish, it's early. We're at 21 out of the 35K. And Van Heuling just sits there, just takes a breath, I think, before the final kick up over the top of this section. Adeline can just see the rider in front, and you can see the split screens here. The advantages of e-cycle on the MyWhoosh platform. We can bring you these gaps. We can show you the difference. Currently 43 degrees out there, scorching out, and that is why so many people choose to ride and increasingly race on the e-cycling discipline. So Van Heuling looking to take another win. She won the last race. Is this going to be another race on the bounce for Van Heuling? She's got the gap on Adeline, and it's starting to stretch out as she starts to push. So 1 and 2 on the road of Van Heuling and Adeline. Behind, then the chase is on, and it's a big pack of riders. We're riding in with Sanchez. She's got Kokoden in front of her, but she pushes now to go over the top of the climb. As she goes over into this next drop, they're separated as 2 rises and 4s, I think, between our leaders and the second group on the road. The second group being led by Sanchez, then Galoma, followed by Gonzalez, Rua, Kokoden, Cavado, and Sanchez really are working out. So Julia Sanchez at the moment on the front of the chase riders and leading in terms of category 2 riders. So the strong women's rider in group number 2, looking to push up, riding for the strong women's team. Adeline riding for the strong girls in front. However, the race leader is currently Elizabeth Van Heuling, the Spartan Obstacles, leading the race out, and Adeline has to close that gap. It's now at 25 seconds from front to rider number 2, and this is where we may see Adeline start to go back into the clutches of the riders behind, if she's been working really hard to stay with our race leader, and she's been pushing into that rate, going beyond that functional threshold. That point at which you can keep on riding without deteriorating, that is when you're going to win. But she's now got to recover. But athletes of this class, they know how to pick up that pace, they know how to recover, and then they know how to go hard. And you can see just how fast these gaps can come and go on a course like this, on what is a very, very tough course here on MyWhoosh. Now in with the race leader, 21 seconds back to Adeline, 1 minute 54 back to Gonzalez Reyes, who is leading the chase behind in the peloton behind her, what's left of it. And you can see the difference of our riders out on that course. Van Heuling now starting onto that descent. She's going to drop down and start to make her way out. Her next challenge, realistically, when she's come off that checkpoint, is that she is going to be heading in towards the mountain. Meanwhile, coming over the top and now into that same descent comes Adeline, and Van Heuling's time over there, 6 minutes 6.755. So for segment 6, which is a long segment, it's 3.5 kilometers. In fact, for segment 6, it's the second longest of our segments. The longest segment is the 4K of segment 7. It is Van Heuling. Now Adeline that comes through and currently sits, you can see, 26.5 seconds down in terms of time across that sector. Behind, though, that is a real fierce battle in the competition chase. And you see it left-hand side of the screen. They're going to be heading in towards that segment as finish as they come down. The question is, how far behind Adeline are they going to be? And you get a good indication as how fast they're traveling on this sector as they come through that segment. Remember, Adeline came through. She was 26 seconds down on that 3.5K on our race leader. Now, can the chasers pull some time back? If they come through in approximately the same time as Adeline, we'll know that they're not pulling back much time. If they come through much faster and we see Adeline drop down that leaderboard for that segment, then we're going to see that they are closing down and they've actually reduced that gap in that period. So here we go into that checkpoint. Will they have closed down much time? What will that time gap have been brought down? Remember, this segment is 3.5K long. Here we go. Look at this. Adeline has dropped right down. She's in 10th position, so she has the slowest time of the top 10 riders through. The leading rider of the chasers went through 3.5K in 5 seconds, nearly 5 seconds quicker in 3.5K than we saw Adeline. But look at the difference between Van Heuling and the chasers behind. Van Heuling came through 21.732 faster than anybody else. So 21.732 faster, and that makes for some scary reading for everybody else. All of the riders in the 3 watts per kilo marker, apart from Van Heuling, who went through there in 4 watts per kilo, and absolutely moving at some serious pace as well. Great to see that the segments give us so much difference in terms of those riders. Van Heuling now with that race lead, chasing a group behind, trying to close down. The rider sandwiched at the moment. The jam in between the sandwich is Adeline, and it's going to be very, very tight. Remember, we've just come through and completed segment 6, which takes us from the 19.5K mark to the 23K mark. Our leaders and our chasers are through there. But of those 35K, the final climb is what is going to really decide this. One lone leader clear, chaser behind being distanced, being closed down 5 seconds in 35. It is just about a second a kilometer, if not, sorry, 2 seconds a kilometer quicker for the chasers than Adeline. The question is, can they continue to pull that gap back? Adeline at the moment has the gap, though. Van Heuling is in front now. Is Adeline going to recover from this and close down on our leader? We're in with her now. Heart rate 152. Drops a little bit recovery going on here. 240 watts. So huge numbers coming out, and just picks up the pace again. A little bit of a kick there. 310 watts. We got 234 for Van Heuling. going, and Adeline continuing to kick hard. 48 seconds is the gap, and it's still over a minute to the chasers. So our two riders at the moment in position one, the rider on the left of your screen, in position two, the rider on the right of your screen, and a brilliant side-by-side comparison of first and second places in the ride at the moment as we start to head in towards the finale of qualifier number one of this block of races. 3 qualifying races, 2 races to count. You've got to do at least 2 races to get into that final. The big prize money coming out on race number 4 of the block of 4 of that final. And who is going to take away the honours here today on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club? Van Heuling has the gap behind Adeline in second place. Prize money will run down a lot further, of course, when we come into the final race. At the moment, this is about bragging rights. This is about setting a marker, about setting your stall out and saying, you want to take the one, well, you've got to come after me. And Van Heuling had Adeline saying, well, I can do that, but look now, as we come in, you can see the Jebel Hafit in the distance. Our riders are going to be heading there and up on to the climb. The same start onto the climb, up over the elevated roadway, then up in to the mountains. It's a lot further in real life from Abu Dhabi and Dubai into Al Ain and onto the hill, the UNESCO site inland on the border with Oman, just about, as our riders come in. The Jebel Hafit itself, actually 1,249 meters above sea level, and that shows you just why it is so tough, because it is a real big climb to ride up the scorching heat. Well, our riders will be trying to keep as cool as possible. They'll have the fans running, a number of riders potentially with refrigeration air conditioning units, trying to keep the humidity down, trying to keep the heat down, trying to stay in an environment where they can put out the numbers, and the numbers are being put out by Van Heuling. Look at the rate she's going at. Great revs, great cadence, as it's known in cycling, 85 revs per minute. Absolutely rock solid there. Got a nice tempo, 87 from the chaser, so very evenly matched, but 161 beats per minute. So Van Heuling with the gap on Adeline, but Adeline behind Lydia Adeline, trying to keep the gap down and trying to stop too much time being given away to Van Heuling. Van Heuling riding the first of the riders from the Spartan Obstacles team will come in if she can hold this gap in front of Lydia Adeline of the Strong Girls squad. However, the 3 leading riders from each squad will have their times added together, and that will give the team result. And these riders really do want to ride for that team. When you're suffering, when you're having a hard time, if you've been dropped, Adeline, you can just see, really is pushing at the moment, trying to minimize that time gap. She won't want to give away any time. She's going to want to do the best she can for her team as well as for herself. The riders behind all know it's going to come down to that final climb and where they finish in that group. So it's going to be really interesting about who is going to push on in terms of teammates. Fura, Quevedo are the teammates of Van Heuling. We have, of course, in the groups behind Brummel, Faber, Schroeder, and Dagan Mashadi in terms of the strong girls. So the strong girls with 5 riders on the team, they need 2 of those riders up in the mix at the finish. Don't forget, though, if any of these teams have 2 strong riders and 1 rider who finishes a long way down, it could come down to the other teams who are maybe not in the mix for 1 and 2 in the race. Here we are in with Catherine Fura. So the Spartans obstacle rider at the moment sitting in 14th position. That means that she is chasing the group in front, and I think that is not going to help the cause too much. That's her teammate Van Heuling, right up the road. We're looking to see if she's going to get any help from Quevedo, who I think is a little bit further up, but Fura working hard at the moment. Quevedo is in front, so it could well be. 14th is the last rider in the team at the moment to count for the Spartan obstacles, conveyed it up the road, and then Hewling, of course, leading the race out. Now, Hewling comes into the climb. She's up, and the kick starts now. You see the grey figures of 0.1, 1%, 1.2, 1.4, 1.5. It starts to kick. You can see it stepping up in front. Van Hewling now onto that final climb, going up on to the Hebel Hafid climb. The buildings by the side of her, the coastline, will soon disappear, and she'll be climbing up into the sky. Remember this climb with a number of landmarks on the way through, the first of which the key landmark of the Beehive tombs, 5,000-year-old tombs at the side, a real key part of the UNESCO site that is Al Ain on the side of the Hebel Hafid, and that is the marker when you're climbing this that you're looking for to know that you're starting to really push into the mountain itself. So into Sector 7. Remember, Sector 7, this is the longest of our sectors, 4 kilometers. It runs from the 28.8k marker to the 32.8k marker. And that will then leave us with 2.2 to get to the top. Van Hewling into that segment now, going on past those tombs to her left and to the right. The 5,000 years of history here in the United Arab Emirates, recreated here on MyWhoosh. Behind then, the chaser Adeline also well into the climb. The pursuers, the group of chasers trying to work in. So Adeline now on to the climb. She's on to the elevated roadway that brings her across. The wonders of MyWhoosh means that we can transport our riders from the coast into the mountains, with the Lincoln Bridge bringing Adeline in at 4 watts per kilo. She's pushing hard here as she climbs out of town and starting to make her way in to the mountains. That gap has opened to our race leader, sitting at nearly a minute and a half, but she's still maintaining a minute to the riders behind. So Van Hewling leading on your left of your screen, rider number 1, rider number 2, right hand side of your screen, pushing in to the sector now. So both riders into Sector 7, into the 7th of our segments that will determine where the riders finishing on that segment will be their speed through that segment. So who is going to climb the quickest? Van Hewling clear of the two, starting to make her way up into the slightly higher slopes. And the landmarks on the way through. There's a few encampments on the way through. We go into the rockier sections. We come up past the laybys where the viewpoints are, and then we come in to the gorges behind Adeline in the section that is down by Al Ain. And then, of course, we have the chasing group now. They are going to look to try and close down Adeline. They're trying to minimize their time gaps for the team to Van Hewling. So Cafedo at the moment trying to pull that gap down. You can just see Karut Cafedo along with Galema and Sanchez working hard with Gonzalez Arua. They're trying to go into the sector now, and they have got to get those gaps down. But look at this, Julie Sanchez doing an amazing job, as is Kokona. And that is going to be a real big fight when it comes to who's going to take the fastest time in the second of our categories at the moment. You can just see at the moment the rider up the road is Stefania Sanchez. She is just trying to squeeze on at the moment. So Stefania Sanchez are working hard, but our leader already continuing to push. And look at the watts at the moment being squeezed out by Elizabeth Van Hewling. The group behind her further down that watt range. So let's take a little bit of a look here. So Julie Sanchez is the lead rider in Category 2. Kokona, the second rider in Category 2. And then it's going to be Cordera now. Cordera is riding well at the moment. She's also a Category 2 rider. Those are our 3 Category 2 riders, mixing it up with the Category 1 competition in here and showing very strongly here today on the slopes of the Hebel Hafit, and looking like they are going to put in a performance that could see them really moving up the ranks. A brilliant performance by all these riders. The front, though, held by Van Heuling. Adeline sandwiched in the middle. She really is in no man's land at the moment, as we see Stefania Sanchez. Sanchez is also trying to keep these gaps down. She's riding for the CM team. So is Galuma. The 2 riders are going to put in a good time here. They're in this chasing group. They're both members of the CM team in Category 1. So they're putting in a great performance as well, really pushing on. Dorancia Gonzalez Arroyo in the Las Colombias team with Ingrid Calderon. They are working well in this group as well. And it's going to be incredibly tight in our team competition. Now, Van Heuling doing everything she can do to keep those gaps down. 31.2 on the clock. She's going to go at 32.8 underneath the time gap. She'll set the time for segment 7. The chasers behind, well, Adeline on her own, but this group on the right-hand side of your screen now really are pushing on. And this is a real tight fight in the team competition. Our leaders of the second category are mixing it up with teammates of our leaders amongst others as they come through. Nobody's giving any ground in there. Nobody wants to be distanced from this group. They know it's going to come really, really tight. Whose team is going to come out on top? Who, when we go into the next show next week on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, is going to be giving us the top spot? Who's going to be the team that they're all looking to beat? Who's going to be second? Who's going to be the next best? Who is going to be the team that's in contention? Who can get close? Who's going to be leading their category? Well, at the moment, you can just see that big push is coming. Sanchez is riding so strongly here, sitting in a 3rd position. She's just starting to open a gap. If you look at the time gaps behind, it's only 1 or 2 seconds, but she continues to push as she moves her way up. And that little bit of gap, though, now starting to be closed down behind Sanchez. And the chase is coming from Kekkonen. So Julia Sanchez at the moment is trying to push, trying to get the spot in 3rd place. The chasers come from Kekkonen, who's up onto a wheel, out the saddle on your screen. The right-hand side closes down on Julia Sanchez. So that gap has come down once again, and this is going to be really a fight between these 2. I think we're just watching to see where the next run in Category 2 is going to be, but it looks to me like this gap now starting to break open a little bit more. This group's starting to fracture. We detached the rider off the back. So that gap is already open. And now look at this, another pushback. So Kekkonen drops into 3rd rider as we see Cavedo come in and through. Calderon go through and Caldera go over. Kekkonen's got to respond now to this. This is going to be a really close up at the front in the race for the first rider across the line in the 2nd category, but they're also racing for 3rd place overall. Adeline in the middle of the road between these 2 groups on your screen, the group of the chasers. But Adeline, now we get to see her. She's sandwiched in between our leader. That is Van Heuling, and then it is Lydia Adeline. And Adeline at the moment putting in a great performance. Van Heuling, though, is absolutely motoring her way up. She's at 32.8k. She's 1.3k in front of Adeline on the road. Adeline, well, nobody in sight behind. They're still at what is going to be, I think, about 45 to 50 seconds. The question is, can anybody pull that gap down? It is rattling down, but is it coming down enough? Well, nobody's going to catch this woman. She now has 2 minutes 30 plus to her nearest chaser. And over 3 minutes now to the riders behind. She comes up alongside the lay-by here. She's going to come underneath that MyWhoosh banner here. So we see that clock tick. She's going to come up to the checkpoint. She's going to set the time up here. And once again, the segment will tell us who's climbing well, who's covering the ground in this segment fastest. That's going to be Van Heuling. That gap is not coming down. It's going out. However, what is the chase behind? So Van Heuling's time, it is, wow, that is fast. 8:34 for segment 7. That is for the 4K segment, and 8:34, an average of 251 watts. Big power, but look at that heart rate, 165 beats per minute. She's working really hard now. Adeline should be the next rider to challenge this. Can she match that 165 heart rate? You can just see Van Heuling continuing to push here. Adeline, though, this is the next rider who will hit that marker, who will go through. Will she be? We saw her. She's second on the road. She was, though, 10th place, right at the bottom of the table once the chasing group came through on segment number 6. Will that be repeated on segment 7, or will it be Adeline who's picked up her pace and started to stretch out? I think that gap has come down. Will it be enough? Will the chasers have pulled that back? Gonzalez Rueda behind Sanchez. So Stefani Sanchez, Julia Sanchez, Rupa Quevedo, as well as Ingrid Calderon, Leslie Ann Cordero, all looking to close the gap down on Adeline. They've got to push hard. I think they're going to come through with the second fastest time in that group when they do hit the end of the checkpoint. The time to be 8:34, that's not going to happen. What will Adeline's time be as she comes in? Adeline at the moment working hard. She's at 32.4. There's a couple of 100 meters between them by the look of it. And at the moment, Adeline is round this left-hand bend. So Adeline now coming into the right-hand turn. The chasers have the left-hand bend. It goes quickly into the right. They're going to be closing down very, very quickly. They are not far away. And once you can see the rider in front, that is giving you a massive incentive to close down. But Adeline now has got to push here. She's going to want to maintain that gap. She won't want to do too much, because remember, the harder you work in the race, the harder it is to recover the next day. The more you burn out there. If she doesn't have to put the energy down, she'll recover faster if she doesn't do as hard an effort this time. Ready for trading through the next week, coming into race number 2. The group behind are really working hard. They can sense that they are coming up on Adeline. They want to get that gap down. They all want to take third place. They're in a real race. They're going to have to give it everything to the line, and that's going to make their recovery harder. The rider at the front, Van Heuling, she's racing for the race win. She knows that she's going clear. So Adeline at the moment in some ways can't lose. She's 27 seconds. She can keep that gap, but that gap is down now. It is really rattling down. Here we go. Adeline's time coming up. Remember, it's an 8:06 to beat. What will that time be as she comes through? Van Heuling is already at 33.9K, so we've still got just over a kilometre to go for Van Heuling to come in and through the line. It's going to be really interesting to see where those positions lay as they go in and through this time. So here we go. The chasers are coming at the moment. This is going to be very tight indeed. The chasers are coming. Well, you don't need us to tell you. Here we go. It's on your screens now. Look at that. Calderon, Gonzalez, Rueda, Quevedo, Sanchez, and Sanchez. So they have closed, and they have closed by some margin. They've gone up that 4K 40 seconds, 41 seconds faster. 2/3 of a minute taken out of that lead of Adeline, back to the chasing group. Van Heuling, though, leading. Great to see as they come through, and that chasing group of 5 riders now trying to close down behind. And then Cordero comes, and you see Adeline dropping down those screens. Great to see now. Our leader, Van Heuling, hasn't got that far to go. She's already on to the upper slopes here. She's coming up around those turns at the moment. Here she is. We're in real close with our leader. We're watching Adeline behind in second place. The group behind continues to try and close that gap down. Our leader, though, at 34.4. She's got 600 meters to go. And this finish is a real tricky one, because you don't get to see the finish, just like in the men's race, very easily indeed. It doesn't leave it wide open for you. Having the knowledge, riding on MyWhoosh regularly, absolutely key to making sure you get this right. And as you come up into that final, we're going to come in. As we come into the turns, it's going to be very, very close. It's sort of wide open at the moment. It closes down into the gorge at about 800 meters to go. And then we find the edge coming through key points. It's a blind finish. We got a right-hand turn with about 200 meters to go. And that is as our rider will turn in through the walls. And then it's going to be the run into the finish. So at 200 to go, it's going to go blind for Van Heuling, but she's got the time. She can take her time getting this just right, gauging that effort behind. The chase is still on. It's still sitting at about 20 plus seconds. I think at the moment it's going to be so close though between Adeline. So our leader comes in. She's going to take this right hand turn now. It's at 34.8, 200 meters to go. She goes round that right-hand turn. It's going to be a real quick run into the finish for your leader. Now going to be a race winner. The first rider in and across the line, leading them home for the Spartan obstacles. It's going to be Elizabeth Van Heuling who comes through. She takes the race win, 1 hour, 4 minutes, 35.5 seconds. A fantastic performance, race winner in and over the line. Now, what are the rest of the riders going to do? Adeline was sitting in second place last we saw. Here she comes. She's pushing hard. She is coming up to 34K. The question is, how far back are the chasers? They're trying to close this down, but Adeline has responded to them. She continues to push hard. Here come the chasers. Adeline now coming in towards the left-hand turn. This is going to be close. You can see the difference between the riders on your screen. Adeline taking that left-hand turn, just coming into that slight right behind. This group is starting to fracture under the pressures. I think they've lost another rider out of the back of the group. I can see 4 riders on the screen, 3 in fact, now starting to push once again. They are just into that route that we just saw Adeline come in and through. Now they line up. They should be starting to see. Here she is in front. They can see Adeline in front. This is going to be really close. Quevedo is coming. Adeline is in front. It's at 8 seconds on your screen. You can see what that time gap is. After all that work, Adeline has to respond now. What's she got left in the tank? Can she push on here? She'll not want to lose her podium in the very last meter. She's got to respond. Adeline currently sits there. He's watching that time gap disappear down. Here comes Quevedo. Quevedo is pushing. She was 5th the last time around. She's got company though, and they are going to come sweeping up and past. Adeline, after all that effort, now has to jump on the back of this group. She's sat behind them and she can see them. She's responding though. Look at the numbers. We saw a 4.6 as she jumps on. She can still roll them back into the line, but the impetus has been lost. And at the moment on the front, it is Quevedo who is leading them in. But now Julie Sanchez kicks. Look at the numbers. 5.5 watts per kilo, 5.3. She's gone to try and go clear. It's 200 meters to go as they take that right-hand turn. They're currently at 400 meters to go. So this is going to be very, very close. Adeline and now is distanced. It's game over. After all that work, she's going to be further down. She did absolutely everything. A brave ride and fantastic ride by Adeline. But look at this. It looks to me like Gonzalez, Rua, Quevedo, and Sanchez, Calderon all getting this right as well. So it is currently Karup who is leading up here. She was 4th on here last time we were here at the end of December back in 2021. She is currently sitting 2nd wheel. And it is going to be Gonzalez who is going to lead in towards the line. Here we go, final kick up. And look at this, with big kick from Julie Sanchez to move up into 3rd place. She goes over the top. Is she going to get her on the line? It's going to be so tight on the line. Oh, it's going to be a photo finish. I think Sanchez got it. This is going to be subject to a photo finish as well. So it is going to be Sanchez and Gonzalez coming through. Now we're going to have a look on the screen. It is Gonzalez Rua. It comes through fractionally faster. That is less than 0.2 of a second Separating second and third place, with Julie Sanchez coming in third place. Ingrid Calderon comes through in fourth place. Carvedo in fifth. Sixth place, Stefania Sanchez as they come in and through the line. Now look at those teams. Spartan Obstacles with two riders in, Carvedo and Van Heuling. Las Colombianas, well, they have got Gonzalez Arrua and Ingrid Calderon in there. The strong women's winner, well, she was a march on there. Look at that ride there by Julia Sanchez. I mean, just phenomenal. And in the last few seconds, absolutely nailing that finish to come through. She takes the first of our Category 2 riders. Now, this will be really interesting to see who is going to be up there. The strong girls rider, Lydia Adeline, coming in and through the line after that brave ride. Fantastic performance by Adeline and all these riders doing an amazing job on a really brutal hill, climbing up this mountainside. Here at Jebel Hafid, the outdoor Hafid, playing host to the finish of both our men's and women's races here today as we watch Leslie and Cordera. She should be the third of our second category riders in and across the line. So Van Heuling in one for the Cat 1, Gonzalez Rua in 2 in Cat 1, and Calderon in 3 goes through in Cat 1. However, taking second place in our Cat 2. Oh, this is going to go down to the timing. It is Kukoden who rolls Cordero on the line. I don't think Cordero saw it coming. We certainly didn't hear. Kukoden with a final mighty kick up there comes in to take second place. And that's a lesson to everybody, I think, as we come in to the finish of that hill climb. As they come in and through, and the team category is still wide open here at the moment, with Spartan Obstacles still with two finishers, the Las Colombianas with two finishers as well. And I think this is going to come down to who can come through behind. We're riding in with currently Sarika Goloma coming through for the CM team. She'll be, I think, their second finisher. So let's give you a quick recap. Van Heuling coming through first with Gonzalez Rua in second, Sanchez in third, Calderon in fourth, Carvedo in fifth, Stefania Sanchez second, Sanchez in through taking sixth, Adeline the long-time second place rider coming through taking seventh place, Kokona coming through in eighth, and Cordero taking ninth place. In terms of categories, Van Heuling going through with Gonzalez Rua and then Ingrid Calderon, the top three in Category 1. In Category 2, Julia Sanchez takes a top spot from, that is going to be Novilin Kukonen, and then Leslie Ann Cordera taking the third place in Category 2. Don't forget, you can catch up with all of the results on the MyWhoosh pages. Those results will be unofficial and marked as such until all of the verification that makes the MyWhoosh racing just so special, that just shows that all of our riders are on a level playing field, even if the Jebel Hafid goes up the hillside. Now, this is going to be Guillermo who's going to come in through to finish. We are going to look forward to next week. Now, make sure you join me next week as we come back. Our next two qualifiers are going to be something spectacular. We've had some great racing. So from me, Matt Payne, and everybody at MyWhoosh, thank you for watching. Ashuvkum Alakir. We'll see you next time.